Hello once again, art lovers. Welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. And today, I wanted to do something, well, not necessarily special, but something a little different. We are going to be looking at Fall of Cybertron Jazz, but we're not going to be looking at this Fall of Cybertron Jazz because, well, I'll explain why in a minute. We're not going to be looking at him. We're going to be looking at this Fall of Cybertron Jazz, specifically the TG02 Autobot Jazz from Transformers Generations, even though it's totally Fall of Cybertron Jazz. Now, the reason I wanted to look at the Takara version over the Hasbro version is because of the color. Now, I know I have that whole silly pun in the beginning about appreciating the form in Transformers, but getting my hands on this figure made me realize just how important color can be. Because this is kind of You know, I mean, I hadn't even realized until now, but this is like kind of yellowish almost and off color, but even ignoring that little problem, like the detail on this vehicle mode is actually pretty nice. The overall detail is nice, but his paint scheme is just so meh. It's like this stark white with, I mean, the blues are nice, the little silvery gunmetal is nice, but overall he's just kind of stark looking. But then we compare him to the Takara version, and I mean, this slightly silvery gray is just fantastic looking. The darker, almost grayish blues are much nicer. Got a little bit extra detail on the windows here, if they are actually windows on the side. I mean, overall, aside from these little areas here that are painted, the actual paint details on these two figures are exactly the same. But just the color choices are very different. And you know, this hot pink that they have for the wheels and the windows here, it almost looks, it's like it's so neon that it looks like it's glowing almost. And you can kind of see like the silvery areas are almost this, they're like pretty much the same shade, but they look a little bit different just because they're up next to this darker gray and this almost purpley grayish blue here. Yeah, it's night and day. Like, this is kind of bland and uninteresting, and this is actually pretty striking. And from what I recall, it's a much more accurate look to how he looked in the game, just this particular color scheme. It looks really nice. Like, I was always I thought that, you know, shape-wise, both of these look nice, but just the color on him is so uninteresting, and just spicing things up a little bit by making him this darker gray and adding these really bright pink tones instead of like these little kind of muted red colors that you can barely even make out. It just looks so good. It looks so good. And that even carries over into the robot modes, which we're gonna do that because of course we are. So we'll come right back, and we'll compare robot modes. And yeah, spoilers. No pun intended. Spoilers. This guy looks a lot better than this guy. So be right back. Right. So we have two jazzes. Two jazzies. I'll go with jazzes. And again, I am probably one of the few people who think this mold actually looks pretty good, all things considered. I mean, the proportions are a little ape-like. And there is this funky chest gap, but honestly, if you have them transformed correctly, you don't see it. unless you're staring at him from the top, so it's not really a problem. But again, this guy is very stark. He's got some nice blue details that are picked out a little bit. The wheels on his legs, not painted, unlike the wheels on his arms and the ones that get tucked into his torso. So it's a little bit off there. But mold-wise, detail-wise, I do think that Jazz looks good. But this Jazz has the same details, same mold, and his paint scheme is so much better. I mean, again, the gray and the darker grayish blues just work so much better, and the pink really stands out, and he also actually does have the wheels on his legs are painted. It looks so much better, and look at the face. I mean, compare this face, which, sculpt-wise is fine. It looks good. But it just seems kind of bland and lifeless. And then you've got this one where you've got the brighter, like, just using the darker color on the head makes the silver of the face pop so much more, and the bright blue visor really just gives some life to him. It looks so much better. And it's incredible. It's incredible how much of a difference something like a color scheme can make. Because seriously, this is just, again, night and day. And like I said, I was never mad or upset or disappointed with this mold. I actually think it looks pretty freaking good. The hips may be a tad narrow, shoulders maybe a tad too broad, but it looks good. And it's one of those rare cases where even from the back, he looks cool. With these nice vent details and everything, which also actually does a decent job of mimicking the game. But yeah, I've always actually rather liked the mold, but after getting my hands on the Japanese version from Generations, I appreciate it so much more now. He is so cool when he's painted well and has so much more interesting color choices. I'm even comparing them from the back, where there's no new paint visible at all. It's just purely the color choice. Like, this guy looks just, again, kind of stark in comparison to this guy. Just that little tweak of color, and just the way that the colors that were chosen for this version were contrast with each other. It looks so good. And it's just, after having these two, it's really driven the point home to me just how important color choices can be. I mean, I've had other figures where I've thought, this could have a little more paint, this could be colored a little bit better, but like this really, really shows just how much of a difference that can make when you've got something that's painted okay, detailed okay, and then you've got something that's like, just fantastic, the level of detail. Or not detail, I keep saying detail, and that's wrong. The paint on this guy, because honestly, the only thing that's painted on him that's not painted on him are the wheels on the feet and these little window things, which you can't even really see that well in robot mode. It's incredible how miraculous the color choice can, like, just how much of a difference this makes. And as someone who always thought the mold was actually pretty cool, I am super happy that I have this guy, because he is so neat. And this guy, he's still cool, but he just does not hold a candle to more accurate Jazz. So, yeah, this is just fantastic. I don't have many other, aside from Cosmos, which the video will have already gone up by now. Aside from Cosmos, I don't really have multiple copies of the same figure to do these kinds of comparisons with. That's pretty much it. It's Jazz and Cosmos. So I can't really do any color comparisons in the near future anyway. Can't do any more color comparisons, but it really is just incredible. Like, just, yeah, if you can I would say if you're kind of lukewarm to this guy, I would say you may still want to try and consider the I already forgot what it is, the TG02 Transformers Generations Autobot Jazz, because the color scheme makes a huge difference. It's just so cool. I'm so happy. Not quite sure what to do with this guy now. But, yeah, this guy's not going anywhere. He's going to be in my collection for a long time because he is cool. Anyway, that has been my look at the TG02 Transformers Generations Autobot Jazz and just how cool his color scheme is over the original, not original, but the US release. As per usual, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those three would be fantastic. I would greatly appreciate anything, really. And once again, and as always, remember, art is more than meets the eye.